And we're starting off our program today with Dr. Ken Yorgan, who is going to discuss some more about sociopathy and politics. Now, we've done had you in a couple times on this, Doctor, and the whole goal of this thing was to get people who are going to be in politics or potentially be in politics, who are running for office, to take a test to find out, have these people got some imbalances in their viewpoint of society? I suspect a lot of them do, but at any rate, the point was to get a
screening process initiated in place. And because there are a specific personality disorder which I think has a very deleterious effect on a person's ability to serve in public office. So that's not to say that they shouldn't be allowed in there at all, but people should definitely be aware of them.
And that's the main thing. And there are definitely some people in office, a lot in office. I mean, arrogance to me is one of the most damaging personalities to be in public office. It should be one of extreme humility. But, so there are certain personalities that do better in public office than others. And this is what we're trying to at least warn people that just because you've flunked the test, so to speak, doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to run for office, but at least we will know in advance. So you've got some legislation or some legislation?
I've written up a rough draft of the resolution, and I apologize to people out there that are watching and listening because this language is, it tends to be a little bit disorienting itself, but it's very, very specific. And if you go through it, then you kind of understand it. So this is how it reads. Whereas there exists a personality disorder identified as antisocial personality disorder, commonly referred to as psychopathy or sociopathy, and whereas this personality disorder can profoundly affect the performance of an elected official in the discharge of his or her duties to the electorate, and whereas said effect has a significant potential to impact said performance in undesirable ways, and whereas it is unreasonable to expect an antisocial personality to self-identify or be readily discernible to the electorate, and whereas a properly trained and experienced psychotherapist is able to identify this personality disorder, therefore, this resolution will mandate that all candidates who have qualified for general election or special election for public office in the city of Racine, Wisconsin, or who have attained such office through a write-in campaign will submit to a professional evaluation by a psychotherapist who has been appropriately credentialed by the American Psychiatric Association. And the public will be notified of the results of said evaluation through public media and by understandable identification on all ballots. Additionally, the reasonable cost of such evaluation will be paid by the city of Racine, Wisconsin. And if this resolution is approved by the electorate of the city of Racine, Wisconsin, it will be exempt from repeal or amendment by the city council, but will be subject to such change through the same direct legislation by which it is hereby brought forward.
Wow, there's some verbiage.
Yeah, it was a late night. Yeah. And again, like I say, it's difficult on first reading this or hearing it to comprehend exactly what's being said. But basically, what I'm saying is that people who are serving in public office should be subject to some kind of evaluation, just as lower level employees in industry and commerce are, if perhaps if an employer wants to be sure that they're not using a controlled substance.
Well, so, and there's also certain jobs that people won't hire someone who's been convicted of a felony, for instance, taking cash at a cash register.
Yeah.
If you've gotten in trouble with regards to stealing, you're not apt to get that job.
You're probably not going to get a job as a kindergarten teacher if you're listed as a sex offender. Exactly. You know, I mean, so there's all kinds of prohibitions and regulations that occur throughout society, and for one reason or another, it's been completely absent for public officials. Well, I shouldn't say completely absent, but largely absent.
Well, I'm not. Oh, yeah, that's right. If you are a convicted felon, you cannot run for office until that gets handled. Sometimes you get a pardon from the governor or something like that, and then you go ahead and run for office. I've known of that.
Well, I tried to also eliminate any circumvention of this regulation by saying, you know, if even a write-in candidate, if they do get elected, they should submit to this. I mean,
Yes,
because
I noticed that,
yeah.
and the other thing is I'm, you know, I got lost in a lot of the words there, I'll admit that. But the question is if this is not a screening process for the candidate. In other words, if the candidate scores low on the test or in the evaluation, that doesn't mean he can't run.
Correct.
He can still run. Unlike if he's a felon, that means you can't run. That's a stop on pursuing the office. This is not a stop on that. All it is it's an advisory type of thing for the electorate of whether they want this type of person in the office.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's very interesting. I think part of the fun of this, the challenge would be to even get this through the electorate onto the ballot. I mean, you want to put this onto a direct.
Yeah, direct legislation means that you go out and you petition the public, and ask them to sign petitions requesting that this be put on the ballot. And I believe it's 15% of the number of voters who voted in the last gubernatorial election have to sign a request for this to be put on. It also could be put on if it's taken directly to the city council and the city council approves it and says, yeah, we'll put that on the ballot. But typically, they prefer to have these kinds of things.
Oh, we'll freeze over before that happens. But as a direct legislation, you just say 15% is what you need?
Yes, 15% of the number of people who voted in the last gubernatorial election.
Wow, so if you get 15% of the signatures on a petition to get this onto the ballot, that just gets it onto the ballot, right?
Right, and then people have the right to vote.
Then it's the usual 51%.
Right.
And then well, that's all very interesting, Dr. Yorgan, and I certainly would welcome something like that.
Well, you know,
I know there's people that just don't belong in government. They create too much hell once they're in there.
Yes.
And you know, I'll have to study this more to find out if this actually is a screening process we want. But I do know that people could come in and they're going to really change things, and they're going to ride herd, and you know, they're totally correct, right in everything that they do. Is not the type of person that you want in public office.
No, you want somebody that's open to other people's ideas, and you want people that are sympathetic to the public, and you want people that are honest.
They're honest.
One of the defining characteristics of this personality disorder is dishonesty. Now, you know, maybe people would be happy to vote for somebody who's dishonest, but they should at least know that that's a part of their personality. Another thing we included here was that this would be exempt from repeal or amendment by the city council.
Well, that sounds like
which, you know, I mean, all other things are, but unless this is done in the same direct legislative process, you know, a repeal is done in the same direct legislative process, this would remain intact.
Cool. All right, yeah, that's a good, I see what you're saying.
So if the people vote for it, then it's up to the people then to remove it if they decide not to have it.
Very good. All right, thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here, and in our next segment, we're going to talk with Dennis Navratil some things about individual rights. See you in a bit.